Have you ever said or done something in the heat of the moment only to instantly regret it? Maybe you fired off a sarcastic email, snapped at someone you care about, or made a decision that felt right in the moment but quickly turned into a disaster. The truth is, acting on impulse can wreak havoc on your mental health, your relationships, and your overall well-being. But what if I told you that a single moment of pause could change everything? Well, in this video, I'm going to show you how thinking before you act can reduce stress, improve your emotional control, and help you feel more in charge of your life. Plus, I'll share 5 practical strategies to help you master this essential skill. So let's talk about thinking before you act. Thinking before you act is about giving yourself a moment to pause and consider what you're about to say or do instead of just rushing in headfirst. It means consciously weighing up the potential consequences, both positive and negative, before committing to a course of action, but without going so far in the opposite direction and overthinking everything. By the way, I'm Jeremy, a counselor and writer, and I focus on making better mental health simple by teaching you how to tackle issues and improve your mental well-being. I'm all about no-nonsense advice that actually works. Imagine you're about to send off a heated message to a friend. Instead of furiously typing away and smashing send in frustration, taking a moment to step back, breathe, and ask, is this helpful, or am I making a bad situation worse, can make all the difference. That's the essence of thinking before you act. It's simple, but incredibly powerful. So why is thinking before you act important? From a mental health perspective, it creates stability in what can often feel like a chaotic world. Thinking before you act is like giving yourself a safety net. Your emotions might be running high. Maybe you're dealing with anxiety, anger, sadness, or a complicated mix of all of the above and more, like being hungry as well. But by pausing, you're acknowledging your feelings without letting them take control. Over time, that helps you develop a healthier relationship with your emotions, so you're responding thoughtfully rather than impulsively. So let's talk about 5 practical ways to think before you act. Pause and breathe. Let's start with one of the most effective ways to think before you act, which also happens to be the simplest. Pause and take a breath. You might be surprised at how often that single moment can shift your entire perspective. And it works because it interrupts the cycle of just reacting on autopilot and gives you the mental space to decide what you really want to do next. Try taking just 1 or 2 slow, deep breaths before you think about what to do or say. If you have more time, say a few seconds, try focusing on the feeling of your breath entering and leaving your body, or slowly counting to 10. Those small acts of paying attention ground you and calm your racing mind, and they remind you to choose your next steps consciously. Next, check in with your feelings. After pausing, the next step is to identify what's going on inside. Are you feeling angry, stressed, worried, excited? Our emotions often drive impulsive behaviors, so when you know exactly what you're feeling and why, you're better equipped to respond in a way that aligns with your values. Start by naming the emotion that you're experiencing. I'm feeling frustrated, or I'm feeling anxious, and then dig a little deeper to understand why you're feeling whatever you're feeling. Taking a few moments to do this, and being completely honest with yourself, can really help you understand what's going on inside you and what you need most in the situation. Acknowledging your emotions and your needs brings them into the light, making them less likely to hijack your reactions. Next, consider your motivations first. Before you dive headfirst into any action, ask yourself, why am I about to do this? Which forces you to reflect on whether or not your upcoming action genuinely serves a purpose, or if it's just an emotional reflex you might regret later. You can do this by briefly reflecting on what you hope to gain or achieve. If your reason doesn't feel positive or constructive, like if it's purely to hurt someone's feelings, then you can choose to steer yourself in a better direction. And that leads to my next point: consider the consequences. Once you know your why, think about the possible outcomes. Imagining the aftermath of your words and actions can motivate you to choose a path that leads to a more peaceful resolution, rather than one full of added drama. Mentally play out a quick scenario. If you say or do this, what might happen in the next hour or by tomorrow morning? If it doesn't look good, it's a pretty strong sign that it's time to adjust your approach by choosing to protect your peace instead of being messy. Next, use a cooling off period. Look, I'm a heat of the moment person, as I'm sure some of you are, and if I don't stop and think before I speak, then my mouth often ends up creating a big old mess before my rational mind even has a chance to blink. So sometimes the best way to think before you act is to step away. This helps you break the cycle of being impulsive by giving your emotions a chance to settle down. Try taking a short walk, making yourself a cup of tea, or doing something completely different for a few minutes or more. And when you return, you'll likely find yourself in a calmer headspace, better able to weigh the pros and cons of what you're about to do or say. Here's the thing. Thinking before you act isn't about overanalyzing or second-guessing every decision. It's about giving yourself the gift of choice. When you pause and reflect, you stop being controlled by fleeting emotions and start responding in ways that support better mental well-being. The more you practice, the more natural it becomes, and the more in control you'll feel over your own life. So, what's one situation where you wish you'd have thought before you acted? Drop me a comment and let's talk. If you found this helpful, hit like so YouTube knows it might help others, and you can explore this topic further in my full podcast episode, available now on all platforms. Subscribe to my channel for more practical, no-nonsense mental health tips, and watch this video next for tips on how to deal with discomfort, because making these sorts of changes can be hugely uncomfortable. Thanks for joining me today. Take care and talk to you next time.